Everyone, and bonjour back here from Nice from day 3 of the ECOP Days 2024 at the UN Ocean Conference. It's great to have you here with us. My name is Marie Heidenreich. Today I have two wonderful guests with us on board of the German research vessel Meteor. First of all, there is Elizabeth Schur. Elizabeth, you're an environmental influencer. You're also a marine scientist from the United States, using your platform to raise awareness for ocean protection and conservation. We're so happy to have you here with us. Hi.
Hi, thank you.
Next, we are joined by Emmanuel Perrier-Bardou. Emmanuel is the co-founder and co-director of Under the Pole, an extraordinary underwater exploration program that blends scientific research, innovation, and public awareness to drive preservation of our oceans. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning.
So, as you can imagine, we are very excited to hear more from each of you. To start off, we'd love to invite each of you to briefly introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your personal connection to the ocean. Liz.
Sure. So I'm a marine scientist, activist, and storyteller. I didn't grow up by the ocean, but I've always been connected to it just deeply personally. And I had to use stories and stories of documentaries or books to learn more about it, because I grew up from the suburbs of New York, and not until I actually went to Honduras, where my mom is from, I learned how to scuba dive, and that really solidified my passion into a long-term career. And yeah, now I use my science, my passion in science and storytelling to bring more awareness and action to global audiences.
Thanks, Liz. Great to have you here. So, Emmanuel, what drives you? What inspires you?
I was born and raised very far from the sea, actually. And when I was small, I was looking at Cousteau expedition. And looking at Jacques Cousteau teams, there were absolutely no women. So I was wondering how I could realize my dream. And being older, I co-founded with Guilain Under the Pole expedition. So we are deep divers. We dive in the mesophotic zone between 30 meters and 200 meters. And we work with scientists. So we do deep diving for scientists all over the world, including the polar region, and raising awareness and making some advocacy work to include this deepest zone into the conservation plan.
Actually, I've been to the expedition hall here in Nice yesterday. It's the Green Zone. It's a huge expedition center, and there you set up a caravan informing the public about Under the Pole's work, and also a capsule. And I learned that this capsule, and it's really not that big. It's not bigger than one of those sofas here, and that was your living room for 3 nights, and you actually slept and basically lived underneath the water in 20-meter depth. How come you did that?
Yeah, I can assure you that the sofa here is much more comfortable than the capsule. But yes, so we wanted to extend the time we are working under the water with the scientists. And so we invited and built capsule. Capsule is a very low-tech habitat. It's a very simple one. It's like actually a big rebreather we are living in. And it's allowed us to spend 3 days, 3 nights. We could do more, actually. It's just a question of being tired and being absolutely not comfortable. So 3 days and 3 nights is a good range to do observation and to make some scientific work. And then 3 other person goes in the capsule, and the 3 who were inside goes up. And you can spend 10 hours in the capsule, or 3 days, or 1 year. You will have the same time to decompress, to go up on the surface. So actually 4 hours.
So how do you solve the oxygen problem? What do you breathe down there?
So it's mostly helium, and we have some oxygen injection inside the capsule.
Okay, and I imagine helium, you probably sound a little weird then talking.
Exactly, we have duck voice. This is not very sexy, but it's very funny, actually.
Okay, like a teenage joke all day long. That must be funny. So, what fascinates you so much about this zone 20 meter to 200 meter below the surface. What's so special about that marine zone?
So between 30 and around 200 sometimes. It depends on how the light penetrates the ocean. So it's this zone, between the surface zone and the very deepest zone where you don't have light anymore. And this zone has been it remains very unknown because it was difficult to explore, because we needed this new technology, this rebreather, to dive in. So it took much longer. And when we were sending submarine, it's so expensive that we were sending submarines much more deep. And at the same time, the mesophotic zone is just a little bit deeper than we are used to dive. And we realized, working in and doing scientific publications, that most of that zone were a refuge for the surface that is very under threat because of human activity and because of global warming. So, for example, you have all heard about coral bleaching or gorgonia's mortality in the Mediterranean. And when you go deeper in the Mesophotic, actually, where we went, the corals were healthy and beautiful and even more diverse in French Polynesia than in the surface. And at the same time, this zone is not protected because it was unknown. So I think it's very important to combine exploration and science to better preserve this zone. Yeah.
So you're a deep diver, basically, so you can really go very deep, diving just yourself without the capsule or any submarine. And I think your record is 145 meters. Is that correct? How is it to dive that deep into the ocean with just yourself? Do you still feel secure, or what feelings does that give you?
I feel secure because we were trained and we have experience, and you don't go, you don't decide to go one day to 145 meters. It's just very progressive. So you take some experience, you improve your skills, you have a good team around you to do that with. So it's all about experience and skills. And I love it, actually. So I can feel scared before going, but when I'm in the dive, I just love it, and it's like going to space. And I really don't understand why we still focus so much on space exploration while we have the space just down there, and we don't know nothing about it, and there is so much thing to discover. So.
Okay, Liz, coming to you. What does your daily routine like? What do you do for the ocean on a daily basis?
Ooh, my daily routine is not the same. It's always changing, especially because as a freelance communicator, science communicator, my roles in this space often work with NGOs or policymakers or being at these conferences and having interviews. So a lot of it is unfortunately behind the computer, working on stories and editing. But at the same time, I get to also sometimes go help NGOs going diving and restoration and helping spread their mission, which is my favorite part of this work, and going back into the science, because I really miss being in research and labs again. But I also feel so thankful that I get to share science in meaningful ways and translate it to audiences and help make it more accessible and meaningful to other generations and people that are not always in the science field as well. That to me is really important, because we need to really help share what's happening around the world outside these conferences and make it more fun, make it more interesting. And yeah, I like that too.
Can you give us some examples of the stories that you share with your global audience?
Ooh, I guess it all kind of started with plastic pollution, because when I grew up, that's how I got into conservation, realizing how much plastic was in my community, seeing the plastic bags in trees and wondering, why don't we know what's happening here and the impacts, but we are memorizing the presidents from 100 years ago, So I started doing lots of beach cleanups, and I was making videos in Barcelona where I was living for 4 years and asking people. I was taking pieces of plastic and counting them and making a really fun trash challenge. I call it the #trash challenge. And I had people in the comments that were also very inspired by this. So I said, why don't you also collect trash with me and comment how many pieces you picked up. So it started this kind of really fun domino effect where people from all over the world were picking up trash in their communities, commenting their pieces, where they're from, and it ended up becoming a collaboration with the European Parliament for World Ocean Day in 2021. That was kind of like the big start of my activism online, realizing that you can do something in your own community, share it with audiences, get people to also take part in their own communities, and then reach big NGOs to help support the mission.
So plastic pollution, what other ocean challenges do you focus on?
I'm really passionate about talking about deep sea mining, high seas treaty, and making it more interesting as well, because we need, of course, the change from companies and politicians to help us stop these campaigns like deep sea mining or to help forward high seas treaty. But with that push, we also need general audiences. So I've been able to help explain what these big moments mean for us right now. And it's gotten the attention of, for example, the US State Department that's invited me and other creators to go and meet with them at New York Climate Week and discuss our shared issues and passions and what we want from our personal youth voices that we have in our own communities that we've created online. Because by creating these communities online, you're also creating trust. And it's really important that as a scientist, I'm not just taking stuff from the media and news, because sometimes it's not always accurate. So important to fact check and make sure that what you're saying is science backed, and helping just share information and making it easier to understand.
So this combination, marine science plus ocean activism plus advocacy, really makes sense. And that,
Yeah, it's definitely multidisciplinary, and I think it's important to be that way because the ocean has many problems and many solutions, and we all depends on it.
so what's so interesting about, for example, the high seas treaty?
Well, what's interesting is that it's basically like the no man's land of the ocean, and it's beyond areas of national jurisdiction. Basically, no country has ownership of the high seas. It's very difficult to manage activities in the high seas. Because of that, there's lots of illegal fishing. There's lots of disruption, and it's kind of scary because we live in a blue planet, but most of it is unprotected. Only 3% is highly protected. And people, it's kind of like what you see, you don't know. It's ignorance is bliss. So by getting countries to understand that the high seas is going to really is already affecting our climate, and if we don't protect it now, we have detrimental effects in our future. So being here at this conference, where I've already learned, I think we've reached 51 states so far that
We
have
need 60.
ratified. Exactly, we need 60. There's not a very exact deadline, but we're all pushing for 2025 to meet our 2030 goal to protecting 30% of the ocean by 2030. So I actually came into this conference thinking, oh, maybe we'll reach like a bit over half or something. And I'm already having so much hope that we still have 3 days to go. We might get 60 states and we might get ratification here. On the lead to COP 31 in Brazil, that will be just amazing to start implementation, and to get also youth engaged in that implementation will be just extremely incredible.
So please, 9 more country leaders, just say yes. Please ratify the BBNJ treaty. We urge you to do that. We, on behalf of ECOPs. You also mentioned BBNJ, but you also mentioned the mining code and deep sea mining. What fascinates you about that?
What fascinates me about that is, maybe Emmanuel knows more about the deep sea than me, but it's just like this full of mysteries, and we have so much to discover. We're always discovering thousands of new species and vents, and how important it is for absorbing carbon. It really absorbs the carbon of our ocean, stays there for millennia, and there are corals there. There are potential solutions to cancer there. We just know so little about this really fragile ecosystem. It's probably the most untouched ecosystem of our planet, and we have this huge opportunity to protect it. Whereas deep sea mining is coming in and saying that, oh, if we take these huge vacuums and vacuums up everything, not just the nodules that they're looking for, but also anything that comes in its way, the corals, other species, it's just, when you see a visual of what that looks like, I've seen Greenpeace make an animation, and it's just the scariest thing ever. You can't say that it's not going to be something bad. It's bringing light and noise and plumes of smoke and sedimentation into this quiet, very fragile ecosystem. And it's really interesting to see that not only countries are signing a moratorium to go against this, but even automobile industries that you think, oh, they would want to say yes because we are claiming that we need these modules for EVs, electric vehicles, and batteries, but they're even saying, we don't want a part of this. So I think they know that it's going to be very detrimental if it goes on. And we've already proven through science that we can keep the existing nodules we have, recycle what we already have. We don't need to keep destroying ecosystems. We just need to use what we have and improve our circular economy in that way.
And they probably also, those industries probably also know that it's not going to be any good for them, this public uproar coming with mining, deep sea mining.
I don't even think it would have a short-term benefit. If anything, it would just have a long-term horrible effect. So let's just leave our ocean alone, use what we have, and keep moving on towards a green economy.
So you mentioned earlier that you also were quite successful already in really influencing policies around the ocean. And Emmanuel, that's also something where you can tell us a little success story of Under the Pole in influencing ocean policies.
Yeah, I so agree with you that you have this winning triangle between science, influence, and conservation. And I'm not a big fan about social media, but I think, and it's very powerful, and we have seen that with the deep sea mining, that activism on social media can make a huge difference. If you use it well, you can really raise yes, the attention of politics about a subject that would stay, very deep, if not. And yes, and unseen. And we were last year working in Greece on a very beautiful archipelago, which name is Fourni. And we discovered a very beautiful marine animal forest made of gorgonians and black corals at 100 meters. And just before we arrived on that forest, we saw some bottom trawling tracks. And I knew from the NGO we were working with and from the local, very small fishermen of this community that it was a huge problem. And they were asking for the ban of bottom trawling since many years, but without success. And so we did a lot of media and we did a lot of activism and influencer on the social media with Under the Pole to ask the Greek politicians to stop bottom trawling and to announce it here, to give an example to other countries about MPA and what you can do. And actually they did it 3 days ago. They announced that they will protect the habitat and the coralligenous habitat around Fourni, and that they will ban bottom trawling around it. So this is a huge success for us. But about deep sea mining, without the social media, we would never achieved the victory we can maybe have. And for once, we are on the good side of history. For once, we have the opportunity to stop destroying something before it happens. And this is exactly what deep sea mining is about. So all these young people that have been using their platform to ask for the ban of and the moratorium about deep sea mining, it's their success, really.
Yeah. So what do you think about the connection between ocean activism, ocean advocacy, and ocean policy? Liz?
What do I think about the connection of them? I think they all go hand in hand. Without advocacy, you don't have action, but before advocacy, you need awareness, and from that comes activism. The only way that we can actually make change is if we get people to care. And I think ocean literacy in general is very limited, unfortunately. And around the world, many countries and cities are not including ocean in their basis of education, and that's where we have to really change, because we all live on a blue planet that we don't learn about, unfortunately. We spend so many years learning algebraic equations and memorizing historic timelines, which is very, very important, but it's also important to understand that we all connect and depend on this planet, because when we miss that opportunity at a young age, it's very hard to, it's not as hard, but it is harder to get there later on in life, because people are already disconnected. They don't understand how much it really impacts our climate, our food systems, culture, economies, all the above. So if we can really increase ocean literacy and just earth literacy in general from starting at a young age, I think we can create more empowerment for ocean leaders in the future.
So another guest who's doing exactly that is Boris Herrmann. So Boris, I'm gonna get you in the round here. Great to have you here. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. Come here. So let me introduce to you world-class sailor Boris Herrmann. Boris, that's Liz, and I'm sure you've met Emmanuel already. You know each other. So the two of you will be sharing that mic, and it's great to have you here on board. You probably feel very much at home on board of a ship, don't you? So that's your mic. Just yeah.
Yeah, this is much bigger than a ship that I'm used to. So I wonder how a helicopter could land here. This seems so small. I thought.
It might also just be a winch deck. So
Yeah.
some German research vessels only have winch decks.
Yeah.
I don't know if a helicopter could actually land here. I doubt it. But we had a little toy helicopter 2 days ago in our breakfast corner, and that worked out. So that was about the size that, yeah, I'm not sure. We should ask Rainer, the captain of RV Media, about that later. But it's great to have you here. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good morning.
Okay, would you also like to introduce you a little and tell us a little more about your ocean passion?
I'm sailor, professional yacht racer, and I've sailed 6 times around the world in races and spent a lot of time on the ocean all my life. Some years, more days at the sea than on land, same like you. And so, yeah, that of course creates a strong connection with the ocean.
Mm. And what exactly inspires you what inspired you to do ocean sports, marine sports, sailing, but also ocean advocacy as you do?
Well, I heard about the Vendée Globe race, a race alone, non-stop around the world as a youngster, and that shaped my life because it took a long time to actually do it and to prepare it, and still working on that, and I will do it a third time in 4 years. This race around the world, and these races lead us through the southern oceans, and we are measuring CO2 in the southern oceans along the entire track. But the data is especially rare to come by in the southern oceans because there's no commercial shipping whatsoever. There are just very few research vessels, and so this kind of made us a ship of opportunities, I call that in the science milieu. And we're bringing data that is actually quite relevant for climate research, and that connected us over the years. We do that now since 7 years. That connected us with scientists and pulled us really into this scene, and that brought us here to the UNOC conference. And we're now connected with research institutes and researchers, and expanding our activities for kind of collaborating with ocean science and conservation.
I know that you work closely together with GeoMar, and they are really glad to have that data because it's really, as you said, in those remote regions of the Earth, it's not that easy to just go there regularly. And since you go there anyway, it's great that you collect this data. What data is it exactly?
Well, quite simply explained, it's the CO2 level in the ocean. The oceans absorb CO2 from the atmosphere. There's an exchange. Sometimes in certain areas, CO2 goes from the oceans to the atmosphere, and these exchanges are being researched. Generally, it's understood. That shouldn't be misunderstood. The science is not necessary to it's clear what policy needs to do, less emissions, but nevertheless there's a high degree on uncertainty of the exact overall levels of absorption and the flux between atmosphere and the ocean. It's about the uncertainty is about in absolute numbers the same quantity of emissions of the European Union, like roughly 3 gigatons of CO2 per year, where we don't know exactly that's the amount of uncertainty in the modeling of climate, and that's also due to a lack of data. And there, lots of the understanding of our planet and the ocean climate stuff is made from satellite observations, and there are drifting buoys in the oceans, but certain measures we really need to go with vessels to find this, and it's a great chance that we can use the sailing to bring this data.
And are you trained in collecting this data, or how hard is it to actually, do you have a CTD on board, or what oceanographic equipment do you use for that?
No, on our race boat we have a fully automated lab. I don't need to do anything. The water is pumped through the keel permanently and collecting 24/7 the data, and then it's treated and submitted after the race, and scientists look at it and clean the data, and then it's available for the entire science community through databases.
Okay, so the Malizia, your ship, is basically a very little research vessel, though it's also mainly a sports vessel, of course, a sailing boat. We've talked about underwater forests and how they are threatened before, and about deep sea mining and biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. What is the biggest ocean change that you have witnessed throughout your sailing career?
There were a few really memorable moments. One was the passage through the Northeast Passage from Russia to China. So basically around the North Pole on the Russian side, and that I had read many books about that, and that's normally a difficult expedition to do. And we were sailing through there with a French race sailing trimaran, with a race boat that is not at all suited for ice sailing, and there was no ice. We didn't see any ice, so really we changed our route a little bit at the end to actually at least see the ice in the far distance. So that was very intimidating to sail for 2 weeks over an open ocean, a pretty calm ocean actually, with zero ice, and also imagining that under the ocean is all this methane in the ocean floor and the permafrost floor underneath the water, and it's not a small area. It's like a continent, and this is all heating up now very quickly. So that the visually the most drastic changes we see, of course, in the north, Arctic has lost half of its ice. In total, half of its sea ice, and there will be soon years with an ice-free North Pole.
A lot of polar researchers are telling us exactly the same thing. There is no ice anymore. There's just ocean where there used to be ice 20 years ago. So that's really a very obvious change in the ocean. Emmanuel, let's come to the less obvious challenges. So what is it that you observe with your ocean exploration NGO? What is the biggest threat, the biggest challenge to the ocean?
There is not only one threat, but of course global warming is something that we can observe. I've been sailing in the Arctic for I think 15 years, and I would have never thought that the ice would diminish like this. Right now, what we did in 2010 with another pole at the geographical North Pole could not be possible anymore. The planes cannot land anymore on the sea ice. And I was at the North Pole last summer, and we were just surrounded by water. So there were just a little bit of ice. And global warming won't stop, I mean, within a second. So it will take time. So the best thing we can do now is protect ecosystem with MPA, with a BBNG, with forbidden the deep sea mining. So the better we can do is to, just let the ecosystem being healthy in place where they have been untouched, like the Mesophotic, like the deep sea, because unfortunately the surface will be very threatened for the years to come. And yeah, so I mean, that's why we have been talking a lot here about MPA and fisheries, because this is a really, really big threat. Yes, marine protected areas. And this is a very big challenge for the country, is to make real marine protected areas without bottom trawling, without fishing.
So Elizabeth, you also came to Ocean Action over pretty obvious threat, the plastic pollution of the ocean. And now you have your Instagram channel with, I think, 17,000 followers. What is the interaction with your followers like? And what do you learn from that?
Well, I do use both TikTok and Instagram, and those audiences are quite different. On TikTok, I guess it would be a lot younger audiences, just because I started with viral beach cleanup videos there, and that was more engaging for younger people to take action without having to be a scientist or political, with making feeling like they can actually do something in their own community, which is actually intergenerational. But yeah, on Instagram too, I guess I have a more audience that is based on both ocean climate, but also just general people around my age and people who are curious to learn more about the environment. And they are looking for different voices to get scientific information in more meaningful ways, because some people, of course, you can see a policy brief online or news articles, but you'll just scroll past them. But if you can connect that news and science to a story and actually invoke emotion with your audience, that's when people want to stop, and that's when they start to listen and care and start to feel like connected. I think we need to give science more connection and focus on these stories. So when Emmanuel was talking about how we really need protection for our ocean, which again only has 3% of highly protected areas, we have proof of how this works. We have proof of how I learned recently that a small fishing village called Cabo Pulmo in Mexico, they had their coral reefs were completely degraded due to overfishing. And after putting a no-take zone, meaning that no people can take the fish from here anymore, we just leave the ocean. Over 20 years, this area has bounced back 4 times, giving $8 million in revenue annually to the community. So when you have examples like this and stories like this, that's when we see protection works. We need to leave the ocean alone in many areas and make sure that these stories from communities are being uplifted so that they can have a domino effect and work in other places around the world, because the ocean is very big and it needs a lot more protection.
And that's where ECOPs come in, early career ocean professionals. Boris, what do you think? Why is it so important to really involve early career folks, next generation folks in ocean conservation, in ocean protection, but also in ocean policies?
Well, we are now at the moment launching a new program with our Malizia Explorer, a dedicated science sailing vessel. We're also going to collaborate with Under the Pole on this project and doing voyages together. On that trip, we are planning to incorporate with early career scientists, especially in Western Africa. There's a program called VASCAL, a master's program, and there's a whole generation of students that are studying oceanography and having little access to actually getting to the ocean. There's landlocked countries too as part of this program, and they have not a single research vessel at their availability. Cape Verde Islands and the Western African countries there. So we're also keen, because we travel through these regions with our sailing science vessel, to get some of the youngsters on board. I know that the Polar Stern and maybe also the Meteor, but the Polar Stern does it on each trip. They take early career scientists on board to give them the chance to just spend time on an actual research vessel, probably some of them the first time in their career. So this is obviously very important to not only have the rich countries from the north having access to science equipment and then going in these countries, but really to mixing and working together between the north and the global south, and to really share the resources and get those involved who are the most also impacted by the issues, by climate change and overfishing, and collaborating with the young generation is often very inspiring, and the power of the youth of the young people is giving a lot of energy to the community. So I think this is something that is really close to our heart.
So if you are an early career scientist from West Africa, you might want to look that up. WASCAL, I think it's WASCAL. What can they do to apply to be part of research vessel Malizia, I'm going to say, cruise together with you?
Yeah, as I said, it's not only us, and we have not a big capacity, but on the Polarstern, they have actually pretty large groups every year coming, because the Polarstern is going from Bremerhaven in Germany to the Antarctic every year, at least twice.
That's the POGO program, I believe.
I'm not exactly sure about all these names, but
Never mind.
as we are working closely with Geomar, and they are involved in the VASCAL program. So. No, but us, Malizia, we have a website. You can find that. Just look on Malizia Explorer on Google, and you please get in touch. And we're keen to hear ideas of. We have even met here at the conference in the One Ocean Science Congress. Early young scientists, oceanographers from African countries, and had very interesting discussions and even exchanged contacts. So that's what these conferences are also great for, to meet all kinds of new people. Like yesterday, we had a delegation of youngsters who are explaining what UNOC is about, and they are just finishing school. And going around with their cameras and explaining and transmitting, and they did much smarter questions than most journalists. So it's really inspiring how strong the youth can be. We saw that also with the Friday for Futures movement. Some of them, in Hamburg, my hometown, some of them, they organized now a climate action law that is going to be voted on the 10th or on the 12th of October. So if you're from Hamburg, please don't miss that. It's actually really important, but to make the city CO2 neutral earlier than the rest of Germany, and so that's pretty impressive. These youngsters are 25 years old, and they create such a strong union of stakeholders in a very short time. So I think we shouldn't underestimate the power of the youth, so to say.
We're here now on day 3 of the UN Ocean Conference, and all of you have been running around here a lot between Lavaland, the red zone, the blue zone, and so on. What were your special moments of this UN Ocean Conference here in Nice?
I think for me it was definitely when the Greek Prime Minister made this announcement about fauna protection, because we have been working so hard the last year to obtain that. So I think this was a great moment. But of course it's very inspiring, and we see a lot of projects, and we are already speaking about the future. So yes, it's very inspiring, and at the same time it's very difficult to keep the energy with it's 2 weeks of conference, of working, of interview, and and also we are all waiting for big announcements, so it can be frustrating sometimes. So yes, but definitely Forni was our moment.
And big announcement, you might that's what you mean with that is really probably the 60 countries ratifying the BBNJ treaty, but also really binding ocean policy protection measures, right?
Yes, exactly. BBNG is a huge thing, but I think for France now it's something that is being okay and clear. So now it's all about talking about it and having the last country signing it. But for us, the big challenge was the MPA in France, and unfortunately, what we have decided is not enough. So we have still a lot of work in the coming years, and yes. And a lot of countries have now signed and also joined the moratorium about deep sea mining. This was a very good thing.
Liz, your one special moment at UNOC 3.
It's day 3, so I think there's going to be a lot more special moments. But I guess connecting with other young ocean professionals has been very meaningful to me, especially because I've been in the space, in the conference space for probably almost 10 years now, and getting to see familiar faces again, it feels a lot more welcoming, a lot more exciting. At the same time, I see so many new youth coming on board, and that makes me really happy. However, there is one thing about inviting youth to be here, which is already a privilege. Trust me, I understand that. But it's another thing to get them into decision making, which unfortunately I don't see enough yet. I think we keep on thinking of ECOPs, early career ocean professionals, these future leaders, when we're already doing on the ground work. We're already here working with communities, telling stories, doing the stuff that's happening in the ocean. But then we have this contrasting thing where we see the ministers and people, a very top-down approach of the ones who are making the political action happen. Unfortunately, these people are often talking from their offices far away from the impact of the ocean. And so I really hope that we can get more of these young people to be the decision makers, because they're the ones on the ground and not just being seen as these tokens in these spaces. We have to also put them into the role of how can we collaborate intergenerationally, co-create strategies and solutions, and really work together to give us those real responsibilities, not just having us talk sometimes and then going to the side. That to me will be a much more meaningful experience here.
Thank you. So Boris, what was it for you? Your number one special moment here in Nice?
So yeah, for us it's a third conference now in a row after the One Ocean Science Congress, where I have been ambassador, and there was an amazing event at the Opera here of combining art and plaidoyer for ocean protection, where the directors of IFREMER and CNRS and other scientists, they were on stage part of the artistic action. That is an unforgettable moment. But then we had the Blue Economy Forum in Monaco and now the UNOC. So it is an amazing moment of momentum here in the Côte d'Azur. And we had the christening of our new initiative, the Malizia Explorer, of our new boat with Sylvia Earle. And that gives me goosebumps each time she speaks from her heart about the ocean. And then we could roll straight into the parade, having the new German Minister for the Environment, Carsten Schneider, on the boat, and having him meet other stakeholders from the German ocean community, Antje Boetius and others, Katja Mattes from the Geomar, and really the wind was the sea was very rocky, big waves splashing on deck, and strong winds, and the boat rolling, and then the minister getting wet from the waves, and we could really feel, okay, we get him literally wet on the boat and connected with this. And so the ocean has a special power to connect people, and we really experience that here, how we can see people coming together, and we just have a new government in Germany, and having the new Minister for Environment being welcomed like this here, and being super engaged. I think that's a good start for the new German government in the ocean space.
He was here at a side event on RV Meteor yesterday night, and he seemed like he didn't want to leave. I think he really likes marine research now and research vessels.
Yeah, that's very important. And then the nice anecdote is that we also had the former minister, Steffi Lemke, who has been very, very engaged in ocean action, ocean protection. She also came. So really, we were able to use our initiative to bring people together and connect here around the UNOC, and make I really think that the energy is flowing very well at the moment.
Yeah, I have the same impression. It definitely does here in Nice. So thank you all so much for the great conversation, for your stories, for your actions, and also for your hopes for the ocean. That definitely gives us all something to think about and also act on. To wrap things up, we'll now show a short video that gives a little impression into how this ship that we're sitting on, the research vessel Meteor, how it sails the seas. So that's research vessel Meteor when it's on the seas and not here in the port of Nice, where we are here right now and where I'm again joined by my wonderful co-moderator Ale. Great to have you back here again.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be back here.
So this was the last time live from the port of Nice at the very heart of the UN Ocean Conference. From ship decks to science panels, virtual studios to global meetups. ECOP Days 2025 were truly unforgettable with contributions from all parts of the world.
I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. This was truly a passionate project for all of us. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about why we do what we do, why we did it. And it's based on 3 pillars. The interdisciplinary and intergenerational network, global decision making, to include ECOPs in the global decision making process, and also increase global visibility for ECOPs at high level events. To every early career ocean professionals contributing and watching from us from around the world, your work, your voice, and your ideas matter. So if you're not part yet from your local ECOP node, go for it, search who is part of it, and come join our network. We are so proud to be in this with you, and stay tuned to our website. We're gonna also both the live streams that we did yesterday and the day before yesterday are gonna be uploaded there, as well as a highlight video. Our website is, as you know, V.ECOP.net.
I'd like to take a moment to thank all of you, the people behind these wonderful ECOP Days 2025. So first of all, the moderators of the online sessions, the ocean action panels, all ECOPs, but also established ocean scientists for your contributions, then camera crew and technical company. A special thanks goes to Dr. Jella Canciora, the heart and soul behind this project, and of course to the crew of the research vessel Meteor, who have really hosted us here with such great hospitality.
I'd also like to thank our sponsors, the German Marine Research Consortium, MEOPAR, the German Research Ministry, IOC UNESCO, and the Global ECOP program. This was only, apart from also our sponsors, it was possible via co-funding from the European Union.
So this isn't a goodbye, this is just the next chapter. We'll see you again on the water, online, or near the shores. Thank you all very much. And yeah, we kind of have to say goodbye. So it was wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much, everyone. We were your moderators, Ale and Marie. See you soon.
Thank you very much. I hope, as I said, I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and see you next time. See you soon.